manager of VRAL community, about VR, reinventing games.
Hi everyone, I'm Yoni. I am a mechanical engineer by day and a VR gamer by night. And I play a lot of VR games, and I manage the VRAL Facebook group, which is the largest Facebook group in Israel for VR and AR related. And I'm going to talk about how VR is reinventing the gaming. And I want to start with a sentence by Arthur C. Clarke: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And really relating to this sentence, I think VR that really fulfills this promise. So a little bit of a background. What is VR? VR is an interactive computer simulation that surrounds you with visual and audio, make you feel like you are in a different environment, as realistic as possible. And how did I discover VR? When I was a kid, I dreamed about it, and then I went to a sci-fi movie convention. Someone put the Oculus development kit on my face. I saw a villa in Tuscany, and I was like, whoa, I'm in a different place, what's going on here, and how my life are going to change from now on. And this is how my journey to VR began in 2013. So I want to start a little bit about how did games change at all in the 90s. For me, it feels that most players are playing the same way in most popular games. You're sitting in front of a flat screen with headphones or speakers, using a mouse and keyboard. And besides from improving the graphics and context, the game looked pretty much the same. You see Doom 20 years before and after, basically the same gameplay. Strategy games like Dune 2, Mario looks exactly the same, but the graphics. And so on. You have driving simulators, fighting games like Mortal Kombat, adventures like Larry, and the sports game, and so on. You have a lot of indie games, you have different movement games like the Kinect and the Wii, but most players are playing the same way, they're sitting in their chairs. And then VR came and changed all that, from my perspective. Most of us heard about VR first in movies when we were kids, starting from Tron, Lawnmower Man, Back to the Future, and The Matrix, which is the most popular movie that exposed the VR idea to the general public. And so the first headset that came in the 90s were very bulky, and you can see why they didn't succeed. And they were very heavy, the graphics were terrible, they would cost thousands of dollars, and only academic and research used them. And then came 2012, Palmer Luckey, that is today only 26, founded Oculus VR. He built a VR headset in his parents' garage, and he opened a Kickstarter campaign for this, and it was widely successful. They raised 10 times from what they asked, and so suddenly the industry understood there's a demand for VR, people are wishing for it. And you can have a quick preview of the...
My name is Palmer Luckey, and I'm a virtual reality enthusiast and the designer of the Rift. Games are something I'm really passionate about, and even more than playing games, I'm passionate about bringing games to the next level. What we're doing at Oculus is trying to create the world's best virtual reality headset designed very specifically for gaming. Where this all started was in my parents' garage in Long Beach, California, and I was interested in stereoscopic displays, I was interested in head mounts, and the problem was there was nothing that gave me the experience that I wanted, the Matrix, where I could plug in and actually be in the game. And I was sure...
So, 100,000 and 75,000 kits were sent to developers, which is a VR miracle because it had literally no content and gave pretty terrible experience back then. But it was pretty cheap, and people started developing for it. And Facebook bought Oculus with no real product for $3 billion in 2014. And in 2016, the first headset started to come out, and the modern VR age began.
That somewhere out there was something that I could buy, and the reality is there's...
You can have a quick preview of the development kits, starting from duct tape versions, to 3D printed, and then to the final consumer high-polished version that you have today. Who are the leading platforms for VR? A few small companies you may have heard of, Facebook with the Oculus platform, HTC, Sony with the PlayStation, Microsoft with all the mixed reality headsets, and Google with Daydream, and hopefully in the next couple of years, Intel and Apple will jump also into the game. They are very quiet about this, but we know they are developing.
Go crazy.
So what is the goal in VR? The most important goal is immersion. You want to make the player feel that they are in a different place, completely surrounded with it, and you want them to feel presence. Presence is a subjective feeling that you are in a different place, and it's very different from different people. But when you are completely in it, when you are convinced that you are in the virtual world, it really feels like the video you see here. So expectations versus reality. When you first heard about VR, you probably thought something like the holodeck from Star Trek. You open a door and you go inside a fantastic room. You can do anything. You can walk.
You're welcome, Commander.
Everything will look realistic.
And if you care to enter, Commander.
I do.
This was my expectation when I first started. But in reality, you have limitations. You know, the flat video games, you can do anything to the player. You can turn it, accelerate it, and it wouldn't matter. But in VR, you have physical limitations because you're now rotating in a room. So the first limitation is the room space. A lot of people need to clear space of at least 2.5 square meters. You need to move furniture. It's not simple for people who live in small apartments. So you need to consider that in your game design. Second thing, most of the time you have a cable. If you turn too much, you can twist in it, you can fall. It became a safety issue, and a lot of people find this irritating. Now there are starting to be solutions for it, but they are still expensive and still have some issues. Another limitation is eye fatigue. Unlike regular games, when people are playing for hours and hours, in VR you have a close screen to your face, it gets hit up, you're sweaty and you have eye strain. So you need to consider this, that your game should have smaller game iterations. And you have the player physical abilities, how fit they are. You can see an example of a speedrun for a super hot VR here. And look at the player in the corner. This can be very tiring to do this for a full hour. Another thing that the player can have a small height and arm length. Here in a rec room, you have a social experience with kids. You suddenly see a really small player standing nearby and he has a squeaky voice. So you need to consider the game for them as well. Don't put things too high so they can reach it. So now VR said, okay, I have all these tools, all this special hardware. What can I do to reinvent the gaming experience? So you need to use what you have. First of all, you have a surrounding environment. The user is surrounded 360 and he can look anywhere. You don't have a camera now, you can turn it. You need to trust the user to look at the environment, maybe catch his eye by a floating bug or something. He will look around. And you have a possibility for room scale. If the user has it, you need to use it. If he is walking, he can walk through a wall and fall into an abyss. You need to decide what happens if the user is walking too far. Another thing that you have in VR is surround sound, which is different from sound you have in movies, because then you are standing still. In VR, you can turn yourself and the sound will move according to your head position in the room. You can get closer to it. You can turn your head to the side and you'll hear the sound from above. And this really adds to the immersion, and a lot of the game doesn't use it. And sometimes people playing the PlayStation VR, they use the TV speakers and it really hurts the experience. A very important thing for VR that you have is a motion controller, that have hand tracking, finger tracking, and also vibration as a feedback. This is what it's called hand presence, and this is the most important thing you can use when you have design a VR game. You need to use people's hands, they love to use their hands. And you have optional accessories. You can put tracking on your shoes, on your back, on your gun, and you have a running track, and many other options. You have the Woodger vest that give you haptic feedback on your body here in the show, and you should try it. But on the other hand of all of these limitations, you have unique challenges. First of them is safety. You need to keep the user not to hit the walls, lamps, pets or keys that can be pretty dangerous, and it happens. Usually when you play Beat Saber. And you need to keep them from leaning on the air, and you can see a few examples here.
You almost don't get oh shit!
That's a real TV, by the way.
Oh shit!
That can be dangerous to be a game developer in VR.
How do I hit some?
Turn around.
And don't put VR headsets on people that can barely walk. Moving on. Another unique problem that VR has is inverse kinematics. You know where the user head is, you know where his palm is, but you don't know where his elbow and the rest of the arm. It doesn't matter so much in a single-player game, but in a multiplayer, when you see other player avatars, they need to look natural how their hands are moving. And you see a Lone Echo game here by Ready at Dawn really solved this problem very well. When you're playing a robot avatar in space, and the hand position looks very, very natural. Another thing is level design that is too intense. This is the trailer for Serious Sam 3 VR, and this is really how you play the game the whole time. I finished the whole game in VR. You need a very strong stomach for it, and it can be too much for most people. So consider this, don't make your game too heavy with graphics coming to the user. So now, what really connects you to the virtual world? What makes you feel that you're really in it and connect to it? So in fact, you're no longer playing a character, you are the character yourself, you feel the experience on you, and the very different user take it in a different way. So you need to think how different users will connect to the experience. So the first sense that really impacts you, of course, is fear. This is a game, a very popular VR game called Arizona Sunshine, where you're shooting zombies in the desert. It's very fun at first, and then you're going down to the mine in the dark. You have a flashlight, and the first time in VR I felt really scared, not from jump scares, but just when you're hearing them coming from the bottom of the mine and you don't want to go forward. And this is how it feels from within. So I let my wife play this level, and she never wanted to try it again afterwards. Second thing, very close to fear, is phobia. You have different phobias from height, close spaces, maybe animals, like the spider that you see here. And if you have someone who has a fear of heights, you put them in a VR experience, like the board here, and you can see instantly if they really have a fear of heights or is just tricking you. They will remove the headset, they will go to the floor, try to grab something, and it's very, very intense. Another thing is hurting your personal space bubble. This is from Echo Arena lobby, and people are just grabbing to your face, making weird gestures, and heckling you. And this is not an environment you would want your kid to hang around. It's very weird that you feel that someone is invading your space when he's on the other side of the world.
You very much do is making kissy faces at me.
And disorientation, if you're flying a spaceship or driving a car in real life, you can have disorientation, and it's happened as well in VR if you're not used to it. But sometimes it's part of the fun. So these were mostly bad sensations, but you have a lot of good sensations that you can feel from VR. For example, you have empathy for characters in VR, which is very strong. This is called the Anna Frank house in VR. And it's a very, very simple VR experience, but you will hear a character talk, you walk in the rooms, you're very connected to the story, and it's even in Hebrew, so it's very fun to hear a VR experience in Hebrew with a narrative. So I really recommend to see how it works. It even works on mobile VR platforms. And something very unique to VR is playing with the sense of scale. This is a game called Spark, a sports game, like squash. And the outside spectator of the game can look at the tiny characters within, and from within you see the huge players waiting outside. So third-person VR can make you feel like a god. This is from Moss. You have a little mice that you can control, and you are like a ghost helping her. So you see your hand like orbs.
Shadow, my reflection.
And you help her pass through obstacles that you can see here.
And this is where you get involved in as the sort of guardian, or the kind of, you know, the thing that looks over Quill. So
and it's really fun that you're controlling the world and you're helping the character.
She can.
And this is an example from Chronos, a launch game for the Oculus. You're going through a portal and suddenly you are very tiny. From within a huge world, you go into a book cabinet, and it's very strange. You felt regular size and suddenly you feel small. Another very nice sense is a sense of levitation. If you dreamt of flying, you have a game like Lone Echo here, when you direct yourself with your hand with little jets, and it's really fun just flying from side to side, doing missions, and I played this whole game in a day and a half, finished the whole 8 hours.
Select your destination.
Very fun experience. Another unique sensation is a sense of controlling time, like the popular super hot VR, when time moves only when you move. So if it doesn't move, the game stops. If you move, the bullets are flying around you, like in the Matrix. And after you play an hour like this, you remove the headset, you're moving differently in the real world. You have muscle memory of how you should move.
That's good.
And this game shows that a great VR game doesn't need good graphics at all. It just needs a good mechanics, good understanding of the platform, of the abilities. So how do you move in the VR space? The user is usually in a small or medium room. And what are your options to move your player? So the first of all is the regular smooth locomotion. You move and you stick forward, and you can walk freely in the world. It's really great for immersion, but it creates motion sickness for most users, because your eyes see that you're accelerating, but your ear doesn't feel it. So a lot of games give this as an option, but you have other options. For example, you have a teleport. This is the most popular option. This is from Doom VFR. You're jumping from point to point, maybe by blinking or by dashing like this. This is easy for a user, but it hurts immersion. It doesn't feel natural most of the time. And this is from budget cuts, a different kind of teleportation, when you have a ball that is jumping to another area and you have a preview. But some games use this as a natural part of the game design. This is from Damaged Core, when you are playing a virus that is jumping from a robot to robot. You're hosting inside the robot. If you start to get skilled, your field of view starts to narrow down, and you're jumping to the next robot. And this is a teleportation that feels natural. Another option is you're standing, and the action comes to you, like popular Big Saber.
What's going on with this crystal?
You have a game like I Expect You to Die, which is an escape room game. You're sitting in the same place, and you have the objects coming to you, and you're solving this escape room.
Probably.
Very good game. So I think all of the users doesn't have an issue with this kind of movement because you
That's
don't
not good,
move.
is it? I need to get rid of that. Let's.
Another option is, of course, simulators. You have driving simulators, spaceship, machines that you are sitting inside. And this is also comfortable for most people because you have the rig around you and it feels more natural to the brain that you're sitting somewhere and the area moves around you. You can also put a player flying like an eagle flight here. You're constantly flying forward and you're tilting your head like a bird, like an eagle. And you can turn around. You have a lot of freedom inside the game world. This is a really fun way to move forward quickly in the game and feel the freedom. You can also levitate by the direction of your hand. You can have jets on your hand or on a weapon and you are moving forward in this shooter game, multiplayer. And it's also another option that you can move freely in the world without many issues of sickness. Another great thing that works only in VR is moving with your hands. You have climbing games like the Climb here. You're just simply moving with your hands when they are above you. It's become a sports game. When you look at this game outside of VR, it can be very boring. You don't understand what the game is, but here just finding your path when you're climbing and doing it this 4 hours, it's very fun. I know someone that is climbing rocks like this and he bought a VR system just for this game. And you have also option throwing cable like Spider-Man in the Windlands here, a game I really like. This also gives you a lot of freedom jumping around when you're throwing cables and grappling yourself. And you have annoying ways to move, like in Sprint Vector here, and you have to wave your hands all the time to move forward. It's a sports game, but it can be really tiring. Finally, a few special things you can try only in VR games. You can see the world in black and white and see yourself in the mirror. It's very strange to look at yourself in the mirror like this, in Wilson's Heart, film noir game, which is very good.
Freaks me out.
By the way, this is the player from Robocop, so you can see it looks like him.
Better.
And in the same game here, you are sawing your wooden hand.
Just like in the
And you have vibration from the wooden hand remote.
It hurts so
It's a very strange sensation.
Not really. Can't feel anything. Blackout for what?
In Lone Anchor here, you have a special way of turning on a flashlight. You're pressing the side of your hand and you have feedback because you feel the finger on your head. And this turns on the flashlight. It's much better than just pressing a button on the remote. You always know where you're headed, don't have to look for it. And you have a very great mechanism of bow and arrow in VR. This is the popular The Lab from the HTC Vive. And this is a similar game called Night Night from an Israeli company. And this works very well because you're pulling the bow, you have vibration, you have the bow sound, and it's very successful. Finally, the most important technological advancement in the following years, you're going to have standalone mobile high-quality headsets based on mobile chips. You have the Oculus Quest coming spring next year, the Oculus Go, the Vive Focus, and the Mirage Solo. And you have in this headset, besides the Oculus Go, 6 degrees of freedom. You can move in a room, you can take it anywhere, you can take it to a friend, you can take it maybe outside. And if you manage to boost your game in this device, this will be for the masses. The Oculus Quest will be only $400, and it's a complete system, and it's projected to have more than 1 million units sold next year. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
So my question is, we're kind of used to the gamer identification of, you know, a slouching gamer with a couple of food ornaments on the side, and he's just playing all day, 14 hours a day. And that's like the gamer we know or we demonize to be. But since VR is very physical, do you think the gamers of 20 years from now will look entirely different, or would we say will be staying in the same place?
I think VR will change everything because it's much more fun, and you can't eat when you're in VR because you have the remotes. It can be tiring to start a VR game at 11 or 12 in the middle of the night. But you have some games that you can play sitting, like the simulator games. So you decide sometimes you have casual games that you can sit or just stand, or a sports, physical music game. So you have a lot of options. You have also strategy games like Red Alert that you can play in VR. You're just sitting and moving your hands, and it's not too much intensive.
Marcello?
Sorry. Yeah. I assume you're familiar with like VR titles right now. You said you know Beat Saber. How would you explain the fact that Beat Saber is by far the most popular title by like 6 or 7 times than any other VR title right now?
Yeah, Beat Saber is really the killer app of VR right now, and it's haven't got yet to the PlayStation VR in a month or two. First of all, they had a really viral luck with green screen videos when you see players inside of the game, and it looks very good, looks very cool. You have Beat Sabers, you have music, and I think it's sports, it's music that you love, it's fun, and I think it's very simple to control. You don't have any sticks, you just have to wave your hands, you don't have anything to learn. When people coming to my house to test VR and they have only a few minutes, this is the only thing I put for them, and then they just play it and they're having fun, even no matter what age they are, if they're gamers or not, they love it. So I think if it will be in mobile headsets, as I see next year, it will be much more popular.
Final question, anyone?
Okay, so what do you think is next? So how is VR going to develop, except going wireless?
I think going wireless will really make the difference because it will be cheaper. And once you can get a VR as a gift, like the Oculus Go you have today, which is a bit low quality, but once you can get it as a gift and you have your, not just your VR friends that you know, but your regular day-to-day friends you can play with, to really be a game changer. And you have a critical mass. When you buy a VR headset, you have at least one friend that have a VR headset, so you can play together. And if it's mobile, you can go to his place or play it from the other side of the world together. And that's really make a difference. In VR, two things that are amplifying the experience is social, and if you are building or creating something like drawing, sculpturing, or building a machine, these two things really amplify it. So if it's accessible, it will really make a difference for the wider audience.
Thank you very much, Yoni, for making the world a bit more immersive.